Welcome to today's Explainer. On the surface, Mark Haddon's The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime reads like a quirky, highly unusual mystery. But today, we're going to dive straight into the source material to unpack what is actually a profoundly moving look at the extreme sacrifices of parenting. Let's explore a story that really challenges our entire definition of what we consider normal. Okay, let's jump right into the inciting incident. Our story kicks off with a pretty grisly discovery. A neighbor's dog named Wellington found dead on the lawn with a garden pitchfork. Enter our 15-year-old protagonist, Christopher Boone. He decides right then and there that he absolutely has to solve this murder. And, well, that decision sets off a massive chain of events that is going to completely upend his entire family. Now, what's really fascinating here is how Christopher models his entire investigation on his absolute hero, Sherlock Holmes. But you see, while Sherlock is your classic Victorian detective navigating a world of deceit and weeding out red herrings, Christopher, he's armed with nothing but absolute truth and strict mathematics. He actually references the classic Holmes story, The Adventure of Silver Blaze. In that one, the crucial clue was simply that a dog stayed quiet in the nighttime, which proved the culprit had to be someone the dog knew. Christopher uses this exact same logic to solve his own mystery. He realizes whoever killed Wellington must be someone familiar. It's just a brilliant literary parallel that guides his whole journey. But to really get our detective, we have to understand his neurodivergent worldview. His mind is a place of incredible strengths, but also really intense sensory extremes. He's incredibly gifted at math, logic, and understanding the vastness of the universe. Plus, he has this photographic memory that literally records every single detail around him. But the flip side, the world is just so easily overwhelming for him. For instance, he absolutely hates the colors yellow and brown, like to the point where it strictly, and honestly kind of hilariously, dictates his entire diet. He has an intense aversion to being touched and genuinely struggles to process typical human behaviors, like reading a facial expression or understanding a metaphor. Because his world is built entirely on absolute logic, the unpredictable nature of other people is just terrifying to him. Now, while Christopher definitely exhibits traits we'd associate with the autism spectrum, like Asperger's syndrome, the author deliberately avoided explicitly diagnosing him anywhere in the text. Mark Haddon actually said, "I wanted Christopher to work as a human being and not as a clinical case study." And that's a really vital distinction for us. By not slapping a clinical label on him, Haddon forces us to connect with Christopher as a complex, fully realized kid rather than just some medical stereotype. We're not reading a textbook here. We are literally walking a mile in the shoes of a highly specific, fascinating teenager trying to make sense of a really confusing world. Let's shift gears for a second, because to really grasp the true depth of this story, we need to move our focus away from Christopher and look at the often overlooked struggles of his parents, Ed and Judy Boone. There's this fascinating peer-reviewed analysis from the International Journal of Creative Research Thoughts that frames this novel not just as a mystery, but as a deeply vulnerable exploration of the agonizing tightrope walk of raising a neurodivergent child. It gives us a window into the fragile balance between care, personal sacrifice, and just raw human vulnerability that his parents have to navigate every single day. Raising Christopher puts an agonizing strain on Ed and Judy, and it hits them emotionally, socially, and relationally. Emotionally, they're constantly suppressing their natural parental instincts. Socially, just going out in public is an absolute minefield. Like the time a crowd at the Bentall's department store triggered a massive meltdown, leaving Judy feeling completely helpless and hopelessly judged by everyone watching. And relationally, the constant stress of managing his rigid routines just leads to escalating arguments between Ed and Judy, which eventually fractures the very foundation of their marriage. I want to pause on one incredibly poignant detail, the painful absence of a simple hug. Because Christopher just cannot bear to be touched, his parents are deprived of one of the most fundamental ways humans show love and comfort. Just imagine the emotional toll of having to suppress your natural instinct to wrap your arms around your own kid when they're upset. Instead, Ed and Judy had to come up with alternative gestures, like spreading their fingers into a fan shape and lightly touching their fingertips to Christopher's. It's a beautiful adaptation, sure, but it is a constant physical reminder of the distance his condition enforces. In this immense strain, it eventually breaks his mother, Judy. In a series of hidden letters that Christopher finds later on, her heartbreaking words perfectly capture her intense isolation. She writes that she isn't a good mother, and she genuinely believes that if Christopher had been different, she might have been better at it. It's so vital to recognize that this isn't a lack of love. It is pure despair. She loves her son, but she feels like a complete failure because she just lacks the emotional support systems needed to cope with his immense daily needs.
So we see these starkly contrasting ways these two parents cope and sacrifice. Ed just shoulders the burden internally. When Judy leaves, Ed takes on absolutely everything. He runs his boiler repair business all day, then comes home to cook, clean, and manage Christopher's highly specific routines. He totally masks his pain to provide stability until he finally just cracks under the pressure. Judy, on the other hand, chooses external flight. She's exhausted. She honestly believes Christopher is better off without her causing tension, so she physically leaves to start a new life in London with Mr. Shears. It's a desperate choice born straight out of emotional burnout.
But here's where it all comes crashing down. This messy, emotional reality violently collides with Christopher's absolute need for truth. The climax of the entire novel hinges on two devastating deceptions. First, Christopher finds his mother's hidden letters and realizes his dad lied about Judy dying of a heart attack 2 years ago. And then, a totally cornered, desperate Ed confesses to an even darker truth. In a fit of rage and romantic rejection from his neighbor, Ed was the one who killed Wellington the dog. Now, for Christopher, whose entire world is completely binary, where truth is safe and lies are dangerous, this revelation literally shatters his universe. He doesn't see his father as a protector anymore. He sees a murderer that he has to run away from. For a kid whose world relies entirely on rigid predictability, these lies force him completely out of his safe zone. It launches him on this harrowing, sensory-overloaded journey to London to find his mom. He leaves the only safe place he knows. By the afternoon, he's stuck at the chaotic Swindon train station, literally doing complex mental math just to stop his brain from shutting down from all the crowds and signs. To escape the overwhelming stimuli on the train, he actually crams himself into a tiny luggage rack for hours. And by evening, he's facing the London Underground, sitting on a bench in absolute terror as the trains roar past. For a teenager who despises loud noises and strangers, this journey is an act of monumental, terrifying bravery. When Christopher miraculously shows up at his mother's flat in London, it forces Judy into a corner. And here is where we see the ultimate parental sacrifice. Mr. Shears, the guy she ran away with, makes it crystal clear he does not want Christopher around. Without even a second of hesitation, Judy instantly gives up the hard-won stability she fled Swindon to find. She packs her things, steals her boyfriend's car, and drives Christopher back to his hometown so he can take a crucial math exam. She proves that despite her past failures, she's ready to disrupt her own life entirely and start over from scratch whenever her son truly needs her.
Now, we don't get a perfect, tied-with-a-bow fairy tale ending here. What we get is a highly realistic portrayal of endurance and rebuilding a fractured family. Both parents have to make massive compromises. Judy moves into a small, subpar rented house in Swindon just to be near him. Ed, realizing he has to earn back Christopher's trust minute by minute, gets him a golden retriever puppy named Sandy and actually agrees to let Christopher dictate the terms of their relationship. And through all this crazy adult chaos, Christopher manages to successfully sit for his maths A-level exam. He gets an A grade, and he finishes the book feeling incredibly confident about his future, all because he went to London and solved a mystery completely by himself.
The author Ian McEwan really hit the nail on the head when he called this novel a superb achievement. He is a wise and bleakly funny writer with rare gifts of empathy. Because ultimately, this explainer isn't just about a murder mystery. This story serves as a masterclass in radical empathy. Mark Haddon doesn't just ask us to understand a neurodivergent boy. He forces us to step into entirely different minds, from the rigidly logical teenager to the exhausted, flawed parents who love him but constantly make mistakes. It really broadens our understanding of human resilience.
So after witnessing the incredibly messy, often destructive, and deeply emotional deceptions of the adults in this story, I want to leave you with this final thought. We spend so much time analyzing Christopher's abnormal behavior, right? But look at the parents. Look at the affairs, the lies, and the violence. Are our own normal adult coping skills really any better than Christopher's absolute logic? Is normal really the ideal we think it is? Think about that next time you encounter someone who sees the world just a little bit differently.